Hey guys, Solomon here. I hope they're having a great day. Recently on this channel, we've been looking at my recent tournament, in which case I hit the National Master title by playing nothing but the Hippo all 6 games and going 6-0. At this point in the tournament, I'm 4 out of 4, and I'm going up against Felix, who has 3.5 out of 4. So kind of an interesting situation going into this. If I win this game, I'm guaranteed to at least tie for first in the tournament, even if I lose the last game. And potentially on how, board 2 goes, I could even have guaranteed clear first if I lose the last game, if I can just win this one, right? If I draw, I'll maintain the lead. And if I lose, Felix would be the one to take over that number 1 spot, okay? Here he starts the game off with e4. I go with my usual 1, 2, and 3, prioritizing kingside development. Starting out with a modern defense, now it's looking like it could turn into a perk, but as we know, I'm playing this move e6, right? Going into that Hippo, tucking this knight. I play b6 here, bishop e7, queen d2. I don't want to allow bishop h6. Right, this bishop's very valuable to me, and this bishop on e3 makes this pawn on e4 a little bit weaker, just because of the fact that a rook can't defend it directly. So, okay, I'm playing this move of h6. The rook comes over. I tuck that knight. I play a6, and at this point, I have my full thick-skinned Hippo, 6 pawns on the 6th rank, 2 fianchetto bishops, 2 tuck knights, and by playing that move of a6, I'm looking at this move of b5, right? That option. Just kicking that bishop around, maybe even b4, kicking that knight around, which, by the way, defends that pawn on e4. Now we see this move of a4. So now that I've reached my full Hippo, I always like asking the question, which of the 2 central pawns, even if you're playing against a 3-pawn center, which of the 2 central pawns on the e and the d files is the weakest? Which one has the least amount of defenders, right? Now, in this position, the pawn on d4 has 4 defenders, right? So even if I attacked it, White could do something in response, or they could just sit there because they have 4 defenders on that pawn. Now this pawn on e4, on the other hand, it only has 1. So if I do attack this pawn, White is going to have to respond somehow. So I play this move, knight f6, doubling up against that central pawn. And here's my idea. If you play e5 first off, pushing the pawn so that it's no longer a target, I now have that d5 square available. And the way that the Hippo set up, this is a very nice transition with both the minor piece on the e and the b files supporting it. White could take all they want, right? We're just going to keep capturing back. If you take on d6, we're taking towards the center with that pawn. If a move like b3, right, trying to play something like c4, we can even just take that knight, play d5. And the biggest thing that stands out to me here is the fact that White has isolated and double isolated pawns. But on top of that, our bishop on g7 is very active. A lot of our pawns, except for the pawn on h6, which I actually like it there, are on light squares. And we have a bishop on a dark square, so because of that, this bishop has a lot of maneuverability and a lot of things that it can do, in a position like this, okay? The bishop on e3, on the other hand, you could bring it to f4 and, go from there. But at the end of the day, we have a nice c file going up against that pawn on c2. And yeah, I'm taking black here any day of the week. So we go back to that move, knight f6. What happens if White looks to add a defender by moving this bishop? This is something you might see too. Well, in this case, we can play g5, gaining a tempo, maybe even knight h5. We can take this bishop off whenever we want to, and knight g6, tucking that other minor piece behind that g-pawn is always an option here. But after the move knight f6, in the game, we have the move of d5 from Felix, and I just kind of close the thing down right away. Right. Whenever I see that move of e5, there's certain moments, specifically the one we just saw, right, where we can just kind of maneuver this knight over. But overall, right, in a position like this, if White plays the move of e5, there's times in which case we can just kind of sit here, right, play a move like knight f5, right, put more pressure on the White camp somehow. Maybe even think about taking that knight on f3. But whenever I see the move of d5 going for this pawn on e6, I always try to lock things up. Okay, why is that? Well, if White plays e5 and takes on d6, we just capture back. This queen is still defending both pawns. If this pawn goes to d5 and takes here, now we have a pawn on g6 and a pawn on e6 with no defenders because the king can't defend both, right? So, in an instance like that, after I see this move of d5 going for this pawn on e6, I don't want to let White take, right, and then make me start defending this pawn on e6 awkwardly, the pawn on g6 as a target. I just play e5 right away. And this is a perfect situation for black. Now, at this point in the game, move 12, I am thinking aggressive and attacking chess going forward. How can I attack this White king? This is a very good-looking King's Indian defense type setup all of a sudden. After h3, I play bishop c8. The way I think about it is White spends all this time pushing their pawn to d5, locking down my bishop from becoming an active piece there. Okay, let's just bring it back. right? Let's put it on this file and play attacking chess. I play the move of g5, hunkering down on this f4 square. We have the move of f3 from white, and I play knight h5. I notice here that white's ignoring their dark squares a little bit. So, okay, let's start attacking them. I continue with knight g6, and now I just play bishop d7. Nothing crazy here, just attacking that pawn on a4. Here I'm trying to, force some kind of move like b3, which makes this bishop a little bit more awkward. Very close to trapping that bishop, actually, with b5 ideas, of course. This bishop has the square on d3. Or play a move like bishop b3, which is what happened in the game. And if we have to ask ourselves which one of these two bishops is better, it's easy to say that this one is, right? A lot more range, and it's attacking a pawn on a4, whereas this bishop kind of just looks like a pawn defending another pawn. I now continue with this move of rook g8. This might seem a little bit strange. My idea here is that I'm trying to get one of these knights to f4 and eventually break open this g file. And when I do, I want a rook to be ready. On top of that, whenever we're playing attacking chess, or we're just trying to play active chess, aiming your rook towards the opponent's king or queen is always a good idea to keep in mind, right? So here we have this move king h1, white dodging that rook, kind of tension right out the gate. I played this move of knight f4. Notice here, if white plays something like g3, pawn on h3 is going to fall. So white has to be very careful here. We see this move of bishop f2. I continue to just make space with h5. Notice here, every single move, I'm not playing anything crazy. I'm not trying to win the game. I'm simply trying to improve my attacking presence piece by piece, step by step, until something happens. All right, this is one of my biggest pieces of advice for you that play the hippo and that don't. Unless you're going for some 7-move trap when you're playing attacking chess, just keep improving your pieces. Keep making space. Keep putting your pieces in better spots. Go for weaknesses, and eventually a tactic will form. Okay, you don't need to put pressure on yourself to win the game in 5 moves. You don't even know how you're going to win the game yet. Just improve your pieces step by step, and something will unfold. Okay, white here plays the move knight takes f4. I actually take back with the knight. It turns out the computer likes e takes f4. For whatever reason, I didn't really consider this much. I think I was just so tunnel visioned on having a knight supporting a knight there. But I've talked about this, including in my course. I talk about taking away from the center whenever we have this kind of pawn structure. And the whole idea is that this bishop becomes very active. And we have the pawn on e5 gone, so that e5 square is available for one of our minor pieces. Right? Let's say white plays something like bishop g4. Okay, we can just play knight e5. This knight is an absolute monster. g4 is on the way, breaking open white's position. And if queen d2, attacking the pawn on f4, no rush. Okay, we'll play queen f6, improve our queen, defend the pawn. g4 is on the way. Right. So that was, definitely the strongest move that black had here. I missed that. I played the move of knight takes. I still liked, my position, obviously. But yeah, I think e takes f4 was a very dangerous line to go into. We have bishop e3. I play bishop h6, looking at g4, looking to, potentially support this knight at some point, right? So g4 is in the air now, depending on what white plays. And here we have the move of bishop takes f4. I take back with the g pawn. Now, taking with the e pawn here now would be a bad idea because of e5. I no longer have a bishop here or a knight supporting it. And yeah, if we take, the rook flies in, we're in check. All of a sudden, white's the one that's kind of breaking this position open like crazy. This is not what we want. Okay, so after bishop takes, I take back with the g pawn. Notice my rook is ready to go on this file. And now we have knight h2. Now, I want you guys, if you can, to just look at this position and think through, okay, what is black's plan here? Well, first off, it's important to note that white really can't do anything. Okay, in fact, I gave this to one of my private students, this position, and I asked him to play as white. Right? Shout out John, by the way, for watching this. And as black, I just did this. King e7, king e8, king e7, king e8. I just kept doing this. Right? And it turns out white doesn't really have much to play for. White could look at a move like a5. That's about it at the moment. Trying to play c5 or something. We have a double pawn clamp there. The bishop's in the way of this b pawn. This knight can't go anywhere. It can't come to g4. It can't come to g3 or e3 either, so it's kind of just stuck on these two squares at the moment. The rooks can't do anything. The bishop is absolutely terrible. Black, on the other hand, can improve their position, and when you reach a position like this, always think, okay, what can my opponent do, right? We don't need to put pressure on ourselves here to win the game right away. I've had multiple students tell me that they'd play a move like queen h4. Guys, there's no rush here, right? And queen h4 is a good idea, and I actually do bring my queen there in just a few moves. However, in a position like this, if your opponent can't do anything, we don't need to be super rushed, right? Sometimes there are positions where both sides are attacking and we really just need to keep the pressure on quickly, maybe even sacrifice material. In this case, white can't improve their position at all. They kind of just got to move back and forth. In that case, take your time. Make tiny little improvements, right? Similar to Anatoly Karpov, he was a master at this, getting his opponents in cramped positions, slowly improving his pieces, and then finding a breakthrough. So my question for you is, when we look at all of our 5 pieces, what are the ideal squares for them? Well, this queen h4 move actually is pretty ideal for the queen. This bishop on d7, I think it's on the perfect spot, right? I mean, this is a perfect square. Attacking a4, putting pressure on the king side, it can't really get much better. The rooks, we can double these rooks up, right? I mean, why not? Why not double up on the g file? Okay, we have a semi-open file with pressure on a pawn. White simply does not have that right now. Where would our king want to be? Well, honestly, a square like e7 could be good, because getting this rook in, because of the fact that if we castle queenside, we no longer have a defender on a6, and our king is kind of exposed to potential checks, potential attacking chess. Castling doesn't always mean that your king's safer, and the Hippo oftentimes is a great example of this. Now, I'm not saying never to castle in the Hippo. I do it all the time. However, there are certain positions where you simply shouldn't, based on king safety. Our king is extremely safe right now with all of these locked up pawns and the fact that white really can't break open either side. The last question is, where would this bishop be best? And it's easy to forget about this bishop. Right now, it's really not doing too much. It's locked behind these dark squared pawns. What we should do is look to bring it to g3. And that was my idea here, right? I play 1, 2, and 3. Remember, white can't do anything here. As you can see here, rook g1, c3. White's just kind of moving around. Why not improve this piece and then play a move like queen h4, right? This bishop on g3, very strong. It can take out that knight whenever we want it to. If a move like knight f1, we could always just keep our bishop there, in certain situations and see if white wants to take. And okay, at that point, we just fly in with the rook. Or we always have, that option of bishop f2, trapping the rook on g1, okay? In this case, we have queen e2. I play king e7, double up these rooks, and now that we have all of our pieces improved, including that bishop, that dark squared bishop, I now find a breakthrough with taking that knight. Bishop takes h3. I capture off that rook on g1. White here ends up playing queen f2. I mean, if you take the rook, that's fine. We're just going to take, and we actually have queen e1 with check, and the rook on d2 is going to fall as well. Okay, so this is not even like a bishop and rook versus queen thing. This is a bishop versus queen. Okay, so going back, when we see rook takes g1, we have queen f2. I thought a while, in this position, trying to figure out what to do. The computer really seems to like the move of rook 1 g3. I was thinking about a ton of different moves here, bringing this rook in, tripling up, all that kind of stuff, even just throwing in a check. There's plenty of moves here that are winning for black. I ended up just taking on f2, going for the simple win here. I'm up an exchange and a pawn in the endgame, +3, and I know that this position is winning. Okay, at the end of the day, we don't need to play heroic, crazy chess all the time. If you have a win and it's simple, take it, right? Low risk is the better option as opposed to high risk. Here's how I look at it. Okay, you can play high risk and try to get some crazy checkmate, or you can play low risk and just win no matter what, right? So a win's a win in my book either way. So I'm always going to go for the win, and I'm always going to try my best to take whatever line is going to give me the best chances to win, no matter what that looks like, right? Here we have rook a1. I'm trying to put some pressure on this pawn. After bishop takes a6, I believe I was looking at just taking off that pawn, but here I saw that I could play rook g to g1. Looking at rook h1 and rook g1, which by the way would be mate if it was black's turn here. And there's really nothing that can step in the way of this dangerous rook pair. Okay, I mean, if you do step in the way, we're just going to take off one of your pieces and we're simply winning. Here we have the move rook e2, giving this king some space to run. White does take that space. I play rook g3. Rook e1 is played here. I throw in a check. I throw in another check. I take this pawn. I take the other pawn. I'm up 5 points of material here, and white resigns the game. Okay, so going back, again, remember, count how many defenders your opponent's pieces have. on one of the central pawns and go from there. In this case, I continued with the move of knight f6, making this pawn a target. If e5, knight d5 is a good reroute. In a lot of positions, knight e4 and knight g4 are also good moves, even in this position, right? Knight e4, very solid move, although I tend to like centralizing my knight to d5 in most positions, okay? And yeah, I mean, when white plays d5, we play e5. Remember that this bishop needs to become an active piece. You're going to play g5 and just continue activating your knights, swing those knights over to the king side, play aggressive and attacking chess, and realize when your opponent can't really do anything but move around, you have all the time in the world to activate every single one of your pieces and improve them as much as you possibly can before trying to make any kind of break. Thanks for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe to the channel as well as hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of the chess content we have dropping soon. On top of that, I wanted to give a big shout out to my Patreon supporters for the month of September in 2023. We have some recently added benefits on top of what we already had, which is quite a bit. And that includes exclusive PGNs to every new Chess Giant video that comes out, as well as a once a month session, in which case I go over patrons' personal games. I'll see you all in the next one.